Hey YouTube, it's Kyle from HospitalityMD coming at you with another episode of the podcast. So last week we spoke with Justin Essner, who spent years working with Hilton in a regional sales capacity. He worked in the top 1% of revenue generators in the Hilton ecosystem and explained how hospitality plays a big role in his success. So if you have not seen last week's episode, take a minute right now to go ahead and do so. This week, we're talking with Justin again, along with CEO of Widewail, Matt Murray. They're working together now to bring reputation management into hotels, a long awaited and much needed solution for this industry. Before my conversation with Justin and Matt, I thought Tripadvisor was the end all be all for hotels and reviews. I was proven wrong. So tune in to find out how you can get more Google reviews in 2021 for your hotel. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications, and share this with your friends. Enjoy the episode, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Justin Essner, Matt Murray, welcome to Hospitality MD. Justin, happy to see you again for another episode. And Matt, welcome to the first time to the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, my
Glad
pleasure.
to be back.
Absolutely. So we kind of alluded to a little bit of what Justin was up to on our last episode. But in case those who missed it, I do want to kind of give everybody a little context. So Justin, we'll start with you briefly. If you could just tell us just a little bit about your background and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So I've spent the last 11 plus years with Hilton. Was part of the opening team at the Waldorf Astoria, Orlando, and Hilton Bonnet Creek complex. Then moved over to the Embassy Suites and Doubletree Suites Disney Springs complex, and then been the last almost 4 years at the Hilton Buena Vista Palace and Lake Buena Vista complex next to Disney Springs, all in different sales capacities, mostly in the group space. I did do about 3.5 of those years was in the transient space as well, but just have a love for the hospitality world. Was part of the unfortunate furlough action that happened in 2020 and took about a month to unpack what was going on. And then from May to July, trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and got connected with Matt over the summer. And then we had some great conversations throughout the fall and saw the immense runway ahead of what Widewail is doing and wanted to be a part of their team and their growth. And so I will be kind of leading out the hotel and hospitality space as an account executive with Widewail.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on officially starting this new adventure. Your advocacy for the hospitality industry will continue to be appreciated. And continue to make an impact. Now, again, so for those who haven't heard the episode with Justin exclusively, you do not want to miss his sentiments on what it's like. Now, he was just being modest right now, but to be in the top 1% of revenue generators in the Hilton ecosystem. So a lot of cool information on that episode. So be sure to check it out with Justin Essner. So Matt, this is your first time on the show. So before we dive into Widewail here, why don't you give us a little bit of context for who you are?
Sure, that's great. I'm a Vermont native. Grew up here, went to the University of Vermont, then spent 6 years in the Navy. And when I came out of the Navy, you know, as most service people, you got to figure out what's next in sort of your civilian life. And I was fortunate enough to find a company called Dealer.com in my hometown. And Dealer.com at the time, you know, was about a 100-person startup, and went on to really disrupt the automotive digital marketing space. We, grew to 10,000 clients. We were bought for $1 billion, and 18 months later, the acquiring company and Dealer.com were purchased again by Cox Automotive. So, spent a really great decade learning about digital marketing, managing, digital marketing strategies at a local level, regional level, working with manufacturers like BMW, FCA, Toyota, et cetera, to help their dealers grow as, the market and customer became much more digital over that period of time. And then I said, what are we going to do next? I spent some time at Podium, who's really revolutionizing kind of the business to consumer messaging space. And then in 2018, started Widewail. And here we are today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service, by the way. Much appreciated. Truly, I think on behalf of our audience as well. So you coming out of the Navy didn't know anything, right, about digital marketing. So you kind of started by just bootstrapping it and kind of just learning as you went. Is that right?
For me, it's a fun story to look back on. I had a MySpace account and I had a Hotmail address. That's where I was in like 2006. And I honestly had a decision to make whether to go back to school at the University of Vermont. And at that time, I had an offer to manage a Borders bookstore. You guys remember Borders? Maybe they still have some locations.
Bring Borders back. Yeah, I love that place.
And this,
One of the victims
location,
of Amazon.
Well, that's exactly the point. Like this was 2006, 7, and if I'd have gone that path, the Borders is gone now. Like this was the best location you could ask for a Borders bookstore, right on the kind of main strip in Burlington, Vermont, called Church Street. So I had that path, or do I go kind of check out this Dealer.com thing? And as fate would have it, my mom had clipped, this is so cute, right? My mom had clipped the article out of the local newspaper about Dealer.com having a hiring event because their growth was already ramping. And I went and checked it out, made some personal connections because everybody in Vermont is connected by probably 1 degree of separation, and decided to go for it. So yes, I had to learn everything that I knew at the time, really through the training program at Dealer.com, and then through on-the-job training and managing, dealership marketing strategy on a day-to-day basis.
Well, yeah, because this was 2006, 2007, right? So it was almost like not even just for you, but to everybody, it was kind of mystical, kind of brand new at the time to build out this new digital and social media marketing type of stuff that is now just commonplace, in a few short years. So what is Widewail? What are you doing now? You started your own company. We talked a little bit about kind of alluding to that on our episode with Justin. But we don't really know what it is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your baby, your company? It's 2.5, 3 years old now in the making. So tell us a little bit about that and your idea, your inspiration, all of it.
Sure. I guess we're actually having our 2.5 year birthday in 3 days.
Oh, that's awesome.
We started Widewail really as a tech-enabled managed service. And it was, this recognition that local business owners in every vertical, whether you're a car dealer or a hotel or a jewelry store, furniture store, et cetera, they're not well staffed for digital engagement. Meaning, for years, we've talked about how the consumer journey to purchase or product selection is very digital, right? Think about our spend in marketing and advertising just to fill the top of the funnel and hopefully capture some new guests at your property, et cetera. Like that's all accepted. We don't or didn't pay attention to the fact that customer service is truly digital today, right? That post-transaction experience is very visible to the next prospect. And generally local businesses are not part of the conversation. They may not even be aware what people are saying about them on sites like Google, Facebook, Yelp, and other industry specific sites. So we said, we know how to build the technology. Adam Burnett is our head of engineering. I worked with him at dealer.com. I just went to him and said, hey, man, let's start monitoring these conversations and see if we can build our own software platform so that people at Widewail could keep our local business customer in the conversation. So anytime there's a comment made about, clients we serve on Google, Facebook, Yelp, and industry-specific sites, that comes to us, right? And we are quite literally the voice of the location. When your customer, your guest is very happy, we're there to reinforce that visit or that experience to the detailed level of making sure that we use the search terms that are important for Google to understand and the next viewer to read. Think of branded search terms, products, services that you receive at that location, right? Pushing that back to both the review itself or the comment on Facebook, and we call that conversational SEO. But we are the always on visible sort of strategy for these local businesses, and that was it. Like, how do we just help business owners? And that product today is used by 90% of our roughly 1,000 customers across the U.S. Now that grew. Sorry, Kyle, I'm on a roll.
Please keep going. Yeah, keep going.
that kind of grew into this recognition in 2020, frankly, that we should be doing more to help our customers create engagement. Right. So if you're a local business, even a hotel, if you don't have a strategy to drive positive sentiment to sites like Google, Facebook, Yelp, upset customers, upset guests, they will be the ones who voice their opinions. They'll suppress your scores. They'll make it look like maybe it's a mediocre experience at your property. And we wanted to essentially help these business owners activate the voice of the happy guest, the happy customer. So we found ways to do that by integrating with things like transaction records, the PMS, maybe a CRM, a point of sale system, in order to drive that customer sentiment live and put a more balanced and authentic view of that local business out in the eye of the public.
That's cool. Because I echo your observations of local businesses and smaller businesses specifically, but it doesn't even have to be that. There's a lot of larger companies who are maybe still not fully aware, or maybe just haven't fully accepted the gravity of having this presence. But there's a lot of places that just don't even know. Like I was actually on Yelp the other day looking at businesses in Chicago, and I'm looking at there's restaurants here that have all these reviews that are unclaimed on Yelp, that people it's like their business, but they haven't claimed it as theirs. Like somebody started writing reviews. They have photos on there from customers, but nobody, the owners, the management never actually like claimed the business. And it's like, even for hospitality organizations such as restaurants, that to see that is in 2021 is shocking even. So I can only imagine how, when you kind of exit out of the traditional hospitality sphere, where at least in hospitality, we've been talking about it a little bit, right? We've been talking about Tripadvisor and Google for a little while, but your local car dealership, I mean, I'm ignorant to that, but I can only imagine how absent that conversation must have been for the longest time. Can
I jump in real quick, Matt?
Yeah, please, Justin, please. I encourage you.
So I will, as an outsider from the auto space, a lot of our team has kind of come in from that space, and they're absolute experts on all of this. The auto industry is probably 3 to 4 years ahead of the hotel space, and probably 5 years ahead of the restaurant space. Yeah, they are so in tune as to the conversation going online. My only estimation / guess is that for the most part, people assume if you go to a hotel, you're going to have a great experience. Customer service is going to be great, things of that nature. most people don't want to buy a car. It's something they have to do. And so that the first thing you think of in buying a car is not a great customer service experience. So from listening into the conversations with some of our clients, they're very cognizant of ensuring that this process with their customers is just that, a great customer experience, because that's how they're going to differentiate themselves. And they know that if they do that online, then it's going to drive the next customer just to give them that back. Whereas hotels are just kind of like letting all of this stuff happen online and not even really paying attention to it, because for the last 10 years, business has been good. Pre-COVID, everybody was talking about traveling. There was so much organic marketing just being done through social platforms from people staying at the hotel. Not many people were like taking like Instagram videos of them buying a car. Auto dealerships are having to pay influencers to come in, and everybody's at the beach showing the hotel in the background, making their friends and family jealous. No one's down at the Toyota dealership saying, "Look at my new Prius, it's awesome." So the auto industry is way ahead of us, to be perfectly frank. And we can learn a lot from them. And I've learned so much from what Matt's a student of Google. He's been very humble so far. Like, he understands how they think and how businesses can kind of integrate into Google's voice, because Google wants to be your friend.
So yes, and Matt, you did kind of allude to that. I think you called it conversational search engine optimization. Is that right?
Yeah. So in the process of managing sort of public conversation, right? Like, let's say that a guest leaves a property, checks out, and says, "I loved my stay at the hotel. I especially loved the services I received in the spa. Amazing Swedish massage." There is a direct association now between that property and the spa and Swedish massage as a service specifically. And, this is getting into sort of the art and science of what we do. We're looking for the opportunity to echo those statements, those comments, to feed those keywords back to Google, right? Like, the more that the reviews on your GMB, your Google My Business page, talk about your products and services, the better visible, the more visibility you'll have for those specific terms in local search, right? So it's essentially like an always on SEO strategy in that way, right? Like, in every conversation, if we can use your business name, product, service, location terms, we're helping Google bring you the right traffic.
So I think a lot of us in hotels and hospitality are just blind to this completely. Justin, I'll defer to your expertise being in the sales world. Me having come up in operations, I don't know this for sure, but I can guess that most of your directors of sales and marketing and the on-site property infrastructure and sales more than likely knows next to nothing about SEO. Would you agree or disagree in your experience?
I think that they know enough to understand that they don't know what they need to know. And so that they understand the importance of it, but they also don't utilize some of just like the Google My Business page, for example. It is the most important thing in local SEO. And I would guarantee you that 95% of directors of sales and marketing don't know that. Because when you go to a hotel's Google My Business page, there's questions that are being asked by customers about your location. And I would say, from looking at over 200 hotels in the last 3 weeks on their Google My Business page, I would say maybe 5% are answered by the business owner. The rest are just answered by local Google experts, if you will. They're not paid by Google. They just go in and answer it, and then you get like Google swag. So those people are answering. Like, one of the most interesting ones I found was, "I really like this resort pool. Is it free to come and check out before we book a stay there?" And the first response from a local person within Google was, "There's no key card access needed, but you might have to pay to park." which is not the case. I mean,
Oh,
you're supposed to
man.
be right. And so now this SEO
Oh,
conversation that
man.
Matt just alluded to, of resort pool, that's a keyword that Google's looking for. Customers are asking for it. The hotel's not even paying attention to the conversation, much less giving the real answer that should be saying, no, the resort pool is not open to outside guests. If you'd like to stay, here's a link, and maybe try and capture that guest because they've already talked about and staying there in the future. So,
So go ahead.
The level of understanding within our space is nowhere near where it needs to be. And so that's where we're trying to come in and help. Just the learning process is going to be the most important thing. I think as people learn how important this is to their business and how it can kind of give them a differentiation factor against the OTAs, they're really going to start to dive into it. And that's where we can help them amplify their voice quickly.
So a couple things, because I do want to talk about the OTAs because that's huge. So I think, Matt, for you now, if I'm a local guest, which I think, Justin, you know this, Matt, I'm sure by now you're starting to hear this from hotel clients, that what's happening, right? Guests are booking same day, last minute reservations. The booking window went from several weeks to 24 to 48 hours, sometimes less. And they're guests from the local area. So if you're talking about this local SEO, so if I'm a guest who says, you know what, tonight I'm going to take a night out, I'm taking my girlfriend and we're going to go stay at a hotel somewhere, and I look up keywords like Orlando hotels with free breakfast. So what you guys are doing, if I'm understanding it right, is fueling all the positive sentiments that somebody has already said and just adding more fuel to that fire so that whenever somebody is looking these things up, it's just boom, right in your face, more so than what the competition would be. Is that right? Am I understanding that right?
That's the managed services side of our business for sure. And in fact, you want to do something fun? Can I share my screen with you guys?
Yes, please do that. That would be awesome.
Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you allow me to present?
Let's see if Greg, are you with us? He's actually the host, our producer here. Greg?
If it's too much of a pain, I can also just kind of
stepped away. Oh, thanks, Greg. Would you be able to allow Matt to share his screen with us here? Okay, let's try it out and see. Inauguration day, huh? Okay.
Here we go.
All right, see if that works.
Let me know when you can see it.
Okay, cool.
Is it terrible? Do you want me to stop?
Oh yeah, that may not actually come across the way that well, you know what, let's do this for the audio part and we'll figure it out for the video. I'm actually just genuinely curious, so let's keep it rolling.
Okay, well, so I'll do this pretty efficiently, but if you back up, Greg, would you mind muting? Thanks, man. If you were to back up to 2011 or 2012, I mean, reputation management first, let's start here. It's not new, right? So there were online reviews in the very late 90s, early 2000s. In 2011 or 12, when technology companies really started kind of trying to sell this idea of reputation management, it was sold primarily on ego. So you could go to one local business and say, hey, you've got a 4.2 star rating and you only have 200 reviews, and Tony's down the street, they've got a 4.6 rating and 1,000 reviews. And a business owner would feel like, well, that's not a fair representation. We're actually better than Tony's. Let's go get a bunch of reviews and improve our score. Fast forward, again, that was kind of an ego sell, right? Like, what you have to prove the ROI beyond just my star rating. Fast forward to 2017, and this article was posted by Search Engine Journal, and it was the first time we really saw the really great documented correlation between reviews and local SEO. And in this article, they've got this great chart. This GMB is Google My Business. They broke apart the different facets of reviews and the impact they have on local search. So you're seeing right away mentions of keyword, city, right? City is just a keyword. Got to get Google reviews. Got to have keywords. Got to respond to your reviews. So we said, hey, wait a minute. This truly is the intersection of SEO and reputation management. And at that point, decided that anytime a guest or a past customer mentioned a product, service, location, we were going to echo that product, and in many ways, maybe even enrich the mention. So you might take a customer's mention of their F-150 and turn it into the full branded term, Ford F-150. So this was an early and easy decision for us. Nice. Now, again, this is 2017, so it's a little bit old, right? But let's modernize a little bit. Moz 2018 said reviews are up 43% in local search. Again, that was 2018. 2020 in June, Moz said Google reviews are now more important than where the searcher is when they perform that search. Amazing to us. So if I asked most of my friends, my parents, my brothers and sisters, when you guys search for a deli near me, what do you expect to see in the first position? And what everybody says is, well, of course, the closest deli. That's not true. Google has 90% search market share across desktop and mobile search for everything in the world, and is constantly improving that experience. So let's say my family's on vacation, right? We're in Cape Cod. We're 3.5 hours from the house. Well, 5.5 hours from the house. And we have a routine dental emergency. One of my kids gets an abscessed tooth. I'm going to ask Google for the best dentist near me. If I go to their recommended practice and I have a terrible experience, some of that negativity is going to be cast on Google. So they've been doing their best in the previous few years, 3, 4, 5 years, to integrate customer verbatims and online ratings to understand who's providing a really great experience. So it's much more likely now that when you say, give me a deli near me, that you're going to get a deli that might be a couple blocks further away, but provides a much better customer experience in the eyes of Google. So this was huge. Search Engine Land said the same thing. 2020 GMB and reviews are more important than any other local marketing strategy. And Google themselves says, how do you improve your local ranking on Google?
Wow.
Right. You manage and respond to reviews. So it's not a secret. It's just hidden in these articles that the average business owner is not going to spend their time reading, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you would think, I'm hearing about this for the first time from you, and you would think that this would have been groundbreaking discovery. Hey guys, everything you thought you knew is wrong. It's different now, and it's been this way for years. But again, I'm sure our audience who's listening to this right now, as myself included, finding out about this for the first time. So it really does it goes to show that there's that education element, I think Justin mentioned, is critical to making it work. Now, Justin, you mentioned OTAs in this as well. So how does this sort of conversational SEO and everything that you guys are talking about in terms of the Widewail's platform, how does that help a hotel compete with one of the biggest contentions, which is just OTA commissions, all this stuff? Nobody wants to deal with it. How can you guys help?
Well, as Matt alluded to, the importance that it's having on local SEO, if somebody types in a search, the likelihood of them landing within an OTA, just based upon how much ad spend they're spending on Google, and then also all the listings that they have within their space. Even after doing all the research the past 3 weeks, the OTAs are still clearly up top. But if hotels are paying attention to this and going after it, the likelihood of that customer finding their direct booking option, it goes up exponentially. We have a case study with one of our customers where after, was it Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, were they just involved in Engage, or were they also using our invite platform as well? That they had a almost 80% increase in phone calls to their location.
That's the invite product as well. So driving reviews as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as they got integrated within our platform, they saw an 80% increase in traffic from Google. Now we're still in the early stages on the hotel front, so we can't say with definitive, this is how it's going to help against the OTAs. But we know that it helps in other industries, and we know that it's going to have a big impact. And for brands, like, I mean, Hilton spent probably $100 to $200 million in marketing in 2016 and 17 on the Stop Clicking Around campaign, just to start driving some of this traffic. Well, if they just pay attention to and really emphasize this on what their hotels need to be doing, like from a, brand standard, like, hey, you have to respond to all of your reviews. As soon as that becomes a brand standard, the local SEO rank is going to go up exponentially. And then Marriott's going to jump on board. And then Hyatt's going to jump on board. And so as these brands start to realize how important it is, because they're paying attention. I had a conversation with Chris Nassetta in July, and he said, Hilton's goal post-COVID is to become a digitally native company and increase our customer experience from the four walls that we've done so well into this whole digital platform. But they understand that it's going to take time. What we're doing with some of our pilot hotels, hopefully in the near future, is we're going to help fast track that.
So what does that look like in application for a hotel? So if I'm a GM or a hotel owner, what can that experience look like for me? If I have no idea where to start.
I'll hop in there, Justin. So I this is not just hotel specific. I think most business owners and managers feel generally like they are victims of their online reputation. In other words, they're just waiting to see what happens. Hopefully it's good. Holy cow, we got an upset guest. Like it's happening to them. And what we're trying to say is, look, you can take control of and be proactive in managing both your reputation in terms of score and volume of reviews. And you can manage the conversation, the narrative around the property by being involved in the conversation. So there's a very interesting phenomenon in almost all survey work, that the more responses you get to your surveys, the higher your scores will be. And the reason that happens is because fundamentally upset customers, upset guests, they always are more likely to register their opinion, right? Like, look at Yelp. Yelp is a great example. You can't, in our industry, you cannot solicit reviews to Yelp. Widewail can't do it. Nobody's allowed to solicit. If you do that, it actually damages your visibility on Yelp, and I can share I'll show you what that looks like, but you just aren't allowed to. So Yelp is where all of what appear to be the most upset people in the world live.
Yeah. I think anybody in the industry would probably say, yeah, Yelp is. I just saw an article the other day from Food and Wine that said Yelp is a site of vultures, was the actual term that they used.
Yelp themselves is a 2-star company on Yelp. That tells you a lot about the platform. So why does that happen? It happens because you can't activate the voice of the happy customer. So like if you're looking, for instance, at your Google My Business page and you've got a 4.2, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's certainly room for improvement by making sure that the percentage of sentiment shared to that page is sort of leaning towards your happy guests. Let's get you to that 4.6 neighborhood. Let's make sure that you're getting hundreds of reviews for a hotel. You should expect hundreds of reviews a month. And on the back end, we'll monitor that conversation. We'll make sure we high five your happy guests and kind of reinforce again the products and services. Bring those upset guests back to the property right? So that they can be managed and their issue can be resolved so that we don't have, negative sentiment out there sort of in our local market.
So I know that you guys have to get running here pretty soon for your next client meeting. So what I'll ask you this and to kind of close out the show here. Why hotels now? This is a new vertical that you are exploring with the company. Why?
Justin, actually, when Justin and I met, by the way, if you ever want to know if somebody's a good salesperson, just see if they can cut through the clutter and get your attention. And that's what Justin did. And so we started talking about the hotel industry and how damaged it's been through 2020 and the reduction in workforce and the need for efficiency, right? And, if you're a property operating with 30 to 50% of the headcount that you're accustomed to, let's say, how in the world do you present that great guest experience? You're doing the best you can to keep the property clean, right? You're doing the best you can to make sure that even with limited capacity, your guests have the best in-house experience. Widewail is here to help you become more efficient, to save you time, to save you money, right? Like imagine, how do you even staff for digital engagement? You've got to take some payroll, right? You've got headcount there and you've got technology costs. It's not realistic as the hotel space is in recovery, right? So we're here to say Google has changed the way they're doing things in search. We can help you take some of that traffic back from the OTAs, right? Earn those direct bookings. We can also help your team be more efficient and ensure that your guests have had an exceptional experience. In recovery, again, and as a lasting strategy, that sounds ideal. And that's any business, whether you're a hotel manager or you own a retail store that's just starting to see a return of foot traffic. Efficiency is extraordinarily important. And that's one of the things that we hope to be able to help the hotel industry with.
I think it's certainly much needed. Like I stated at the beginning, the advocacy that you guys are doing will actually help the industry on a larger scale. I genuinely believe that because we have to get people who are happy. They have to be happy or else it doesn't work. We have to get them into our hotels. We have to reinforce that positivity. And again, the OTA thing alone is crippling the already struggling hotel industry. So with that being said,
Can I add something to that real quick?
Yeah, Justin, please do. Absolutely.
So there's something that Matt kind of mentioned with the efficiency of staffing and all of that. As we come out of this recovery, there's something that has kind of been an undercurrent as well. There's almost a stigma if you've been traveling in the last 10 months. Nobody wants to post online that they had a great experience because they're fearful of the backlash that they might get from their cousin or their mom or whomever because they, felt safe enough to travel.
Facts.
By us, helping hotels activate that happy customer and giving them the confidence that, the hotel cares because it is an extension of their customer service. When that customer has the courage to go on and say, I had an awesome stay. They made me feel safe. The hotel was clean. Like it was good for my mental health to get out and be a part of just my local community again, even though I just stayed in a room outside of my house. Our team is trained to deplore empathy and say, thank you so much. And they're going to help these hotels get that voice out there because that's the sentiment that needs to be out there. Right now, all the reviews that are going up on Google, Tripadvisor, and such are, this hotel's not serving breakfast anymore. It sucks. This hotel's not doing this anymore. I was disappointed. They're still charging $20 for parking, even during a pandemic, just silly stuff. And if hotels aren't managing the conversation and just being a part of the conversation, even if that person leaves that review and the general manager, director of sales, whomever is the voice on property, if they're going on and just having a conversation, the likelihood of a review similar to that goes down exponentially because the next time someone's like, they didn't serve breakfast because of COVID, they've already seen that the hotel's engaged in that. they're going to have a much more substantiated like thought process to it because there's a teacher in the room. And that's where we're here to help. Like we want to be a massive extension to the customer service of the hotels as they recover.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we actually touched on this a little bit. I don't remember if it was off the record or if it was on the record for our last episode, but you know, talking about like, okay, what's the current state of what that looks like? An untrained front office supervisor is given the login for Review Pro or whatever, and they're going on, or they're going and they're responding to reviews from, more often than not, from an emotional place, because they witnessed whatever it was. Maybe they disagree with it. Maybe their heels are dug in even further after seeing that negative review come through. And that person, you know, an entry level leader in the hotel is in charge of this huge, as we know, wildly important factor in their business. But you know what, we're just going to add this to their checklist because we don't have anybody else to do it and whatever. And then, so it's that plus the possibility that maybe that's not even happening now. It could be even worse, depending on how you look at it, where you go on Yelp, you go on Tripadvisor, and then you see everything January, February, and then March, you'll see like a couple reviews responded to, and then all of a sudden radio silence, dead. It looks depressing. It looks like everybody gave up. So meanwhile, while everybody around you is crumbling, hotels and businesses who deploy Widewail and who deploy this strategy can, instead of their online reputation looking just as depressing as 2020 was, it could actually look hopeful, optimistic. So I think, again, I echo it again, you guys are doing some major advocacy for the greatest industry on earth, along with others that you're involved in. So I thank you for that, as does my audience. Now, where can we send our audience to check you guys out? We'll be putting the links in the show notes. Matt, what do you got for us, my friend, for you and the company?
Yeah, sure. You know, our URL is widewail.com, WIDEWAIL.com. There's some great case studies there, some good resources too. Even if let's say you're a marketing manager, excuse me, at a property who just wants to learn more about kind of best practices and review response and understanding the impact, please check out the blog and case studies. There's an extraordinary amount of rich information there. If you just want to reach out to us, info@widewail.com. Love to start a conversation and set up some time to chat.
Awesome. And Justin, I understand you'll be contributing to the blog as well, correct?
Yeah, I have one that is going through some fine-tooth last thought processes, and it actually touches on the OTA conversation we had. So stay tuned.
Okay, well, definitely looking forward to that. Gentlemen, thanks for being on the show. Justin, good to see you again. Matt, nice to meet you. And thank you for your contributions to hospitality.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kyle. Good to see you, man.
Yeah,
stay well.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you learned something. I certainly know I did. So before we go, please be sure to follow Matt and Justin on their social media channels, which are in the show notes, along with all of Hospitality MD's channels, which you can also find in the show notes as well. If you have not subscribed to our channel yet, do so down below, and visit www.hospitality-md.com to learn more. We'll see you next week.